Welcome to another special overtime every time with yours truly, Rainbow Dragon. It is almost noon, so we're gonna have that noon coffee, and then I'm gonna have a soup, and I'm gonna go work out, train, exercise first and foremost. As always, gonna sing that Rainbow Dragon rock and roll without the guitar, cause I don't have that money to go get that guitar. But I'm grateful, thankful, rent paid, electricity bills paid, got food and coffee. I said rent paid, electricity bills paid, got food and coffee. Grateful, thankful that my rent for the month of March is paid, got coffee, got food, and got some tea, got some cans. Thank you, farmers. Food security starts with our farmers from Quebec, La Belle Province to the farmers of North American collective civilization. We're gonna go for an overtime every time rock and roll. 20th of March, finish the 40-day ride, yours truly. As I finish the 40-day ride today, beginning the 22-day ride for those who are down on that 93, and the new agenda, forget it for that goal and rock and roll 24/7 in the lair of the dragon when I go to the mountain, and encouraging all to work out, train, exercise, working out, training, and exercising has been, is, and shall continue to be my medicine and therapy of choice. 77 pounds down, got out of depression and being suicidal. Warning content. Content might be a little bit triggering for some, so you're warned. I'm going to discuss a little bit of surviving depression and being suicidal and my fitness journey and whatever have you, and being right here, being with Aspie. That Aspie got that Asperger, so I might have gestures with the hand in a more ritualized manner, and of course I might repeat things twice, three times in the same sentence or the same syllables or the same words. But I got that Asperger's. In this past years I've accepted that I do have Asperger's. I'm an Aspie with amnesia, retrograde, retrograde amnesia. All the past years and all the work that I've done in the online and being reborn during this COVID, because I survived COVID back in February, about February, mid-February till about March 20th, and of course when I survived COVID it was about 4 years. 4 years already. We're gonna toast to that COVID surviving and encouraging all to carpe diem it every day. I do carpe diem it every day. I'm an artist, athlete, philosopher, geopolitical analyst, and theorist who's a rock and roll over time every time. And of course, who gonna get it for that? Butchers, bakers, nurses, farmers. I gotta give a shout out, as I always give that gratitude to the three services which are provided in the city and throughout the collective North American civilization. Cities. Those who pick up the garbage every week, thank you for that service. Those who pick up the compost every week, thank you for the service. And those who pick up the garbage and the recycling and the compost. Three services I got in my neighborhood in the Dragon's Lair right here. I got it. The compost, the recycling, and the garbage. The garbage collectors. Thank you very much for those public sanitation workers, to those public sanitation workers who pick up the garbage with some brain and some muscle. I appreciate it. And of course, it's part of the public services. I gotta salute the public services, public workers, changing up those aqueducts, filling up those potholes. Thank you to the firefighters. Big love to firefighters, love to the nurses. We love our firefighters, love our nurses, love our doctors, love our grocery store clerks, love those cashiers, warehouse workers, dock workers, public workers, train conductors, electricians, and the plumbers. We love them on the roads, those truckers, the nurses, the daycare workers. Big love, yours truly, the people's artist and athlete, not perfect, far from it. Gonna rock and roll for the farmers, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, the grocery store clerks, 24/7. Encouraging all to work out, train, exercise. Working out, training, and exercising has been, is, and shall continue to be my medicine and therapy of choice. I've lost 77 pounds down and now surviving COVID. I am triple vaccinated, and of course encouraging all to and for public hygiene. And I'm also an independent geopolitical analyst and theorist. You heard that correct? I am an independent geopolitical analyst and theorist. But if I go into a divergence and of course streaming of geopolitical analysis, I will be a non-stop, because an Aspie, we people who have Asperger's, less than 0.44%, not even half of 1%, so less than 1%. Less than 1 out of 300, less than 1 out of 300 people, less than 1 out of 300 people have Asperger's, the condition of Asperger's. There's no medication for Asperger's. I just have to learn to deal with my symptoms, not to approach people too closely when in conversation, and not to repeat things too many times, and not to be obsessed about my obsession and key interests, which are, of course, for myself. Many Aspies have different interests of supreme and super focused when we are obsessed, because we have obsessions and interests where we are obsessed about those narrow interests, and mine are geopolitics, the study, the analysis. I'm a great, super, and excellent geopolitical analyst and theorist and philosopher, and of course, not only geopolitics, but also sports, fitness, and dancing is my favorite sport, and of course, the study of civilizations or civilizational studies, and of course, public hygiene. So those are my obsessions, and I'm a super and great, excellent at geopolitical analysis and the study of civilizations and fitness and some sports. I am an independent athlete. Dancing is my favorite sport. Dancing is my favorite sport. You heard that correct. Dancing is my favorite sport. Dancing is a sport. And of course, I do encourage fitness, and I love to see people working out, training, and exercising. And I keep it rock and roll. I'm a rock and roll philosopher. I'm a philosopher, love to get that march. And of course, I am open for business 24/7. Time to get a little bit of this coffee. Thank you, grateful, thankful for the coffee, got food, rent paid, electricity bills paid. And shout out to those public sanitation workers on the road filling up the potholes, and of course, the public workers, and of course, those who pick up the garbage and the recycling and those services. We got it. Of course, we got to be mindful that civilization, my brothers and sisters, civilization is a privilege. You know, civilization is a privilege. Civilization is a privilege. And that was my thesis back when in 2023, when I presented my thesis online to the world. And of course, being that rainbow philosopher, my thesis being, of course, that there we have what I call the privilege of civilization. You know, we got clean water, aqueducts, Hydro Quebec. Always give a shout out, salutation to the workers of Hydro Quebec. Always meditating when I go on my marches, when I see that truck, how the dams were built. You know, we got dams and that were built over the decades from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s until recently last year there was building and renewal, of course, a new complex on the La Romaine complex with the hydroelectric dams, which of course transport the electricity, and by which me, yours truly, does this live stream now have the water, heat, and my coffee. And thanks to those workers of the past, because it takes a little bit of that old school, takes a little bit of that old school with some new school. You know, some things are new, like freedom, liberty, and of course satellites, in which a parallel life. I'm a super scientist. Not gonna go into conversation about the parallel life. I'm gonna keep a rock and roll to what's the topic at hand. Surviving COVID 4 years, finishing a 40-day ride, and enjoying this dark black coffee, nothing in it. It's a bit on the bitter side, but it's gonna fuel me to go rock and roll, work some more, and write some more songs. As I go 24/7, I write rock and roll songs. 24/7 write those rock and roll songs. And for the butchers, bakers, nurses, farmers, firefighters, doctors, we gotta give a love, LOV, to the firefighters. You know, public service workers, those workers in the public, or those who pick up the garbage every week, once a week. And on the compost, a few years ago, I think back in 2017, I did work myself. 2017 or 2018, when the compost was introduced, I got a few weeks of contract and I did work on it, and I delivered the bins and the information. I went knocking door to door to do that was a nice work. I wish it would have continued procedure, but of course I am calling all to support the Dancing Goddess Army initiative, part of my dream, the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom. And what is the dream? Of course, it is my call for a public-private partnership, as I'm open for business, for implementation of my holy trinity of theories: the CIT, citizen integration theory; the DRT, debt refusion theory; and the democratic fusion theory. That trinity of theories: the DRT, debt refusion theory; the citizen integration theory; and the democratic fusion theory. That trinity of theories to be implemented via the fourth dimension, LOV, of course, in what I call the North American collective civilizational complex, or the complex of North American civilization. That is one of my own theories and beliefs, because I am a North American Canadian Quebecer. I'm a Quebecer Canadian North American. And I do believe in reincarnations as well. I'm a mystic, and universal spiritual teaching student. Who's a wannabe Telemite? Get a wannabe Telemite, throwing that 93 today. Special HHH holiday beginning. Yours truly, rock and roll. We're gonna do with some rock and roll. Already showered, already clean. I got some more cleaning to do in these coming days until the 8th and the 9th and the 10th of that April. 8th and 9th and 10th of that April. 8th and 9th and 10th of that April. And we're gonna discuss a little bit of that march, and of course do a little bit of a march for my Telemic Nation today, as I always do, for the farmers, for the butchers, for the bakers, for the nurses, for the doctors, always including the youth. And I love when I see people joyous and happy, and when the youth, let my youth, my children, let them dance safely, freely, lovingly in the streets. Let my children, youth, North America, dance, and the world for that matter, for world peace. I can be universal, but fundamentally everything that I know is this island metropolis of Montreal of 2.5 million people, like a small country right on the island. I live on an island called Montreal. It's second most populated city in North America, in Canada, and eighth in North America, and top cities in the world. It's 2.5 million people. With the South and the North Shore, it's 4.5 million people. And of course, we got a lot of things just to visit here in Montreal. There's so many things, and I go to my second home, the mountain, Mount Royal, and get that view. I encourage you all to go there to the Condirnac Belvedere. Anybody who's gonna get to watch stumble that video, you're gonna say that Rainbow Dragon went there, and you went there and you see the Belvedere, and you see the view of all the skyscrapers of Montreal, and it's such a beautiful city, and you can see all the mountains to Saint Bruno, Saint Hilaire. You can see a mountain ranges far away, and of course we have a mountain system with three peaks, or three summits of the mountain, right in the hard island of Montreal, which is Mount Royal. So yours truly. Although I am for now financially struggling, I am $10,000 500 in. I am $10,500 in debt. I am $10,500 in debt, but I got plenty of kisses by the trillions, and of course, got some dance moves and some philosophy. And I'm a great geopolitical analyst and theorist and a great rock and roll. Nobody writes rock and roll songs like I write in this month of March. I can say that very few among the few I write. I create usually in freestyle mode. Let's go from one freestyle mode rock and roll song right now. Ready? We're gonna listen to that French and English cause we that bilingual in Montreal like Celine Dion. I don't know what it is, but I can feel it in the breeze. I don't know how many degrees, but I gotta dance up on my feet. Feet, gotta get a little creepier. Gotta get a bit weirder. Yeah, this Aspie got that rock and roll, rock and roll obsessions about. So I rock and roll 24/7 for the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, farmers, truckers, railroad conductors, electricians, the plumbers, the construction workers in steel toes, building up those. Hey, it is construction workers that start. It starts with the construction workers, my brothers and sisters, building those houses. And I'm a fan, I'm a fan. Really a fan when I see them going on those cranes and with those building blocks and that cement and on that steel and of course building and building and building. I'm calling construction workers if I want to build something. I want to build the Forgotten Goddess Temple, the Forgotten Goddess GODDSS Temple, right here on the island of Montreal. And of course, I will only need. Although I'm grateful for this place here on this month of March 20th, because it's way better than where I used to live. I just remember moving from a place where it was lots of mold, really underground deep in Montreal, Cut de Neige, CDN Cut de Neige, about 7 miles, 7 kilometers from here, So it was a very moldy underneath place. Maybe that's what caused amnesia, who knows? And I remember moving here to a better place, was depressed and suicidal. And 6 years ago, in 2017, I went across Canada coast to coast. So that event made me to come out of depression because I crossed coast to coast, Canada, one with a good friend, and was me if I make a me, I'm gonna give her half 50-50, anonymous. So we crossed Canada, we went all the way to Vancouver, all the way to British Columbia, and went all the way to, of course, the east. So we went from the east to the west, went from the east to the west, went from the east to the west, went from the east to the west. So we kind of encompassed and crossed, of course, Canada, and crossed coast to coast Canada, and we went, of course, to cross all the way to Vancouver, all the way to British Columbia, all the way to the east. So we crossed coast to coast, and then that event got me out of depression because I said to myself, I'm being suicidal because I was depressed and suicidal. So that event, I saw so many things to see in my country, Canada, to do, to write children's books, to write rock and roll songs, to visit. So many things to visit. The dams here in Quebec, to see more buildings built, to see more skyscrapers, to see small cities, to see and do. Just in North America, as a North American Canadian Quebecer, who of course was born right here, and even in previous incarnations, I believe, and I know, I was born even post 1492, and I was born twice in the United States, born in the USA twice in past previous incarnations, that way down south, served both times in the US Army. Yes, yeah, post 1776, you heard that correct. I was born in the USA, and both times I've served in the United States Army. Both those previous incarnations I served in the United States Army. So now I'm calling for the PPP Dragan Army based on my philosophies and initiatives, which of course I'm not perfect. I got so many things I don't know, so many things I am mediocre at, so many things I am average at, so many things I am so. While I am so mediocre and average at some things, I am also great, super, and excellent in some other things. Geopolitics 24/7, dancing, I'm the best, some rock and roll, and always gratitude. Gratitude, I think, is something which I find super important. I look, so I got this super pie, I got pea soup, I got peaches trench, I got food for today, so I'm gonna carpe diem it and I'm gonna be open for business. I am financially struggling. I got financial stress. Yes, I could use a good massage therapy. But you know what? Millionaires, billionaires on that Wall Street finance, millionaires, billionaires finance the nurses and the farmers and the fast food workers flipping up those burgers. Finance them, especially the nurses in the public, the nurses in the public, the nurses in the public. Hey, the other nurses and the teachers and the farmers, and the nurses. Finance them a massage therapy session because they deserve good massages. You know, to our firefighters with it. Firefighters got love for our firefighters, love for our nurses, love for our butchers. Always meditating what's happening now, and with my imagination, of course, on the ground, and of course seeing all the trucks, all the warehouses, all the delivering, and so not the hygiene. We gotta increase in public hygiene, and myself too. I still gotta work. I love to keep it colorful. Love to keep it colorful, but I'm always mindful about. But we got civilization as a privilege, my brothers and sisters. We got civilization, you know. We have freedom, liberty. It's not always easy, and myself, I do have aggression. My brothers and sisters, I have aggression, but I channel it. I sublimate it. I work out, I train, I exercise. I work out, I train, I exercise. I work out, I train, I exercise. I do push-ups. I go hiking at the mountain so that I harm no other citizen. Try to be what's called here in Quebec. We got some a bit old school, which is not bad. It's quite to keep it simple a bit. To be a la loi du bon samaritain. It's called the Good Samaritan law, which kind of is kind of how the principles of the whole law. Sometimes we gotta simplify it, and you know, if I do, I can apologize for X, Y, Z, and you know, I have certain conditions, Asperger's, and as I scratch, I got scars and that itch sometimes, you know. So it might seem like my gestures in the public, but I'm always aware and mindful, you know, that when I step in the public, I got added responsibilities, duties, and obligations, which in my underground room office and temple would have not been the same. If I stay in my underground room office and temple, it's not the same obligations when I step outside. I go to the mountain when I go XYZ, when I go XYZ. So it's always a public and a private partnership dance, and that's what all my dancing goddess in the Dragon Kingdom is all about. A public-private partnership. That's why I'm calling on all institutions and organizations to support the dream for the North American civilizational collective rebirth, a lot of rebuilding of infrastructure and mass financing citizens fitness activity. We have multi-millionaires, billionaires. It's time. My brother in the NFL, National Football League, NHL, National Hockey League, NBA, National Basketball Association, MLB, we gotta mass finance citizens fitness. I cannot stress enough the importance of how good it is to regular physical exercise. I was depressed and suicidal 6 years and 6 months ago, 2017. In August, I went to Vancouver, British Columbia by bus. 3.5 days to take us across Canada. We did a lot of pit stops, stop here and there in small cities, urban areas. So wow, so many expanse. Canada, great expanse here in North America. Then I came back Montreal. Then we went. It took 25 hours and 44 minutes. 25 hours and 44 minutes. 25 hours and 44 minutes. To of course to go to the east, in not Halifax. To go to the east in Halifax. 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 And that's when I came back, that got me out of depression. You know, in the whole summer, somewhere close to that ending of the summer, August and September, across Canada, first went west to British Columbia, Vancouver, and then went east to Halifax, and then I got out of depression. Said it's that event propelled me to go out of depression. So I'm calling maybe to incentivize North American tourism initiative for citizens, maybe to mass finance them to be able to go by public-private partnership to go take the train, take the public transport, incentivize. I think it would be a good initiative, you know, to see, because we got so much things to do. And my brothers and sisters, and my brother Bill Blair, you know, I got love for my brother Bill Blair. My brothers and sisters putting on a uniform of a Canadian Armed Forces, Canadian Armed Forces, Canadian Armed. I don't remember, but supposedly I have I was doing cleaning and I got amnesia, retrograde amnesia, so I only remember more the past years, like the past more than 7, 8 years, 9 years, moving and doing the past work that I did during this past years, and having struck by COVID. Maybe COVID caused amnesia. I don't know. COVID is still something we was mysterious. I know I had it. I had all the symptoms. I was very sick and on disease. But anyways, before I digress, I want to say that I did find some things here that I did wanted to note to go to Kingston Military College. So to my brothers and sisters to put on the uniform, and to my citizen brother Bill Blair, you know, national defense starts right here on the ground. If you got, I would say, as a Rainbow Dragon Zero, that if we are to put on the uniform, or first and foremost, you put it for the 40 million Canadians, that national defense starts right here on the ground, Montreal. You know, coast to coast, coast to coast. You know, you put on that defense. that we gotta get those troops to go change some diapers and to read some children's books. Gotta get those troops to change some diapers and read some children's books, because national defense starts with our children and the youth in the daycares. That's what will be a protocol for the 21st century. So, as I understand geopolitics and I understand and I actually predicted the complexities of what's happening now, the complexities of what are happening now, I predicted them back in 2019. Back in 2019, when I did a geopolitical analysis, back then I've concluded that humanity is again set on a concourse towards an international conflagration. And so back then, made, created, and produced a workout training program system of which myself have made, created, and produced and work out myself. As you can see, proof of work, hundreds of workout videos online where you can see me working out, training, and exercising, and doing push-ups and doing squats and getting fitter and fitter every day. But I've created that workout training program system to go, of course, with a World War III scenario, in which, of course, I had predicted the geopolitical situation now, the crises and the wars and potential for World War III. It's serious. It's serious. As much as I am 1/7 of a comedian and like my humor, but we also have some serious issues. And one part of it is that I predicted the geopolitical situation of what's happening now back in 2019. Back in 2019, I've predicted, of course, the geopolitical situation which is transpiring now, and which, of course, is the potential for World War III with Putin's re-election. What's 87.70%, so close to 88%, close to 88% supposedly of the vote was given to Putin. Well, not gonna go in a deep analysis of that, because what do I really know is the island of North America. As much as I spend with one foot in many years, one foot in the streets, one foot in the libraries, one foot in the streets, one foot in the libraries, one foot in the streets, one foot in the libraries, and I've educated, learned, read tens of thousands of books on philosophy, geopolitics, and all geopolitical analysis, and of course all studied civilizations and read and written tens of thousands of pages of philosophy and theory about, of course, civilization, and mostly for surrounding the issue, the complexities of geopolitical analysis and the dimensions of geopolitical regionalizations. And of course, back in 2019 in October, I did an analysis and had predicted what had situationally happened and what situationally has been happening and has been transpiring during COVID. So yes, had predicted in many ways, as my geopolitical analysis back then had taken many points and events in historical events which had transpired, and of course had come to the conclusion that an international conflagration is approaching. In other words, a World War III back in 2019, because I'm an Aspie, got that Asperger, so I am obsessed about these topics. Geopolitics 24/7, sports, fitness, dancing is my favorite sport, and of course the study of civilizations or civilizational studies. And I could add with that public hygiene. I always open carry my disinfectant, and I'm a bit wary about microbes, bacteria, and germs. Not to the point that I'm always willing to offer free hugs. Free hugs, I might ask if you're vaccinated, or might see me doing the germs and cleaning after or whatever have you, but I'm always open to all who will, and got kisses, tickles, and some rock and rolls to all my allies and armies. Pledge your allegiance, legions to our family. That is the rock and roll song. Thank you, farmers, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, firefighters. Saluting our firefighters. Big love to our firefighters, our butchers, our bakers, our nurses, our truckers, our warehouse workers, construction workers on those steel toes and on those cranes. Got a little bit of risk and security. I admire them. I sing for them when I now imagine across Canada and across Quebec how they're building up those cranes and building those buildings and putting that cement, putting that steel, taking measurements, putting up those hammers and those nails. I always salute. I'm always, when I march on, my heart is always in the mind, always with the workers on the field, because I had my self-employments. And of course, Asperger's makes me like many Aspies. Until we get situated and we get concrete fi- finances and we get financially stable, we struggle with friendships. I made a lot of friends over the past 7 years plus, and I lost many friends during the past 7 years, maybe because of not knowing how to, of course, manage. Because there's no medication for Asperger's. There's no medication for Asperger's. For Asperger's, there's no medication. I have to learn how to manage my symptoms and be aware that I'm different, and I might have gestures which are repetitive and a bit weird with the body, or might say things twice, three times to say things, or be obsessed about interests and fitness, sports. Not everybody shares my obsessions about sports and fitness, or geopolitics. analysis, geopolitical analysis. 24/7 is geopolitics with the Dragan, and sports and fitness 24/7. And of course, rock and roll style with rock and roll. So my rock and roll obsessions, and of course, the study of civilizations. And I presented my conclusion on my theory, philosophical theory, which I believe to be not just a theoretical analysis and perspective, but also a truth in its fact that we North Americans, Quebecers like myself included, Canadians, North Americans, that we constitute a collective North American civilization, or a North American civilizational complex, which is emerging and has been emerging since about the end of the Second World War. But it predates that, but mainly in its modern form, how the North American civilizational complex, we constitute a kind of a unique, a new, a new civilization in many ways, an emerging civilization. And where in this civilization we made what I call the great linguistic compromise of the French language. Sometimes there's tensions, and it's always, but we make an effort like Celine Dion, no problem. I give rock and roll free poetry in French, free rock and roll in French, because I'm a Quebecer Canadian. I try to make an effort. I'm a centrist. Sometimes I'm 50-50 with some politicians, 70-10, 19-10. Sometimes we gotta get compromised, and it's always a civilization being a privilege, always thinking about the aqueducts and myself, that I have electricity, I was able to take my shower. So all that was built with brains and muscle, and brains and muscle has been required, is required, and will be required for us to build and maintain civilization. Brains and muscle has been, is, and will be required, and we cannot base all our interactions on just one sole thing, on just force or strength, right? If we are to be justice and get, have a little bit of justice, well, justice takes a lot of discernment also, right? I'm gonna launch my justice series maybe tomorrow with the next cup of coffee. But just to say that, well, to be a judge, to judge somebody, and somebody comes with a case, I would have to hear it and make a discernment to judge for XYZ factors. Let's say somebody stole something. What did he steal? Did he steal bread? He needed to eat. The question is, if I would be a judge, I said, did you need to eat? You stole the bread. He said, yes, I was hungry. I stole the bread. But he stole wine. He stole a bottle of wine. Why were you so drunk? You need to steal a bottle of wine? Yes. It's not the same thing, right? He stole a laptop. He stole a laptop. Well, it's not the same thing. Right? We got essentials, survival. We got food, shelter, food and shelter mainly, right? The rest are privileges, right? There's internet connection, privilege, and electricity can also be a privilege because it's built with the dams, and saluting the workers who build the dams, right? Electricity, and yes, we pay for it. The financialization and the money aspect is another matter, but money fundamentally is to buy, sell, to buy, sell, to buy, sell. And we cannot base all our civilization on just the private or just the public. It has to be a concordium. This is the 21st century. As a philosopher, geopolitics, this is the 21st century main objective, to reach a concord, equilibrium, harmony, and balance between the public and the private, and also between the left and the right. Because the 20th century was full of extreme left and right. The 20th century was full of extreme left and right. The 20th century was extreme of left and right. It was experiments and experiments. It was right, extreme left. And balance and harmony, equilibrium. I don't say that I've achieved it. I have not. I still have lots of issues. I don't know. I can cook okay. I can clean okay. My private life is XYZ. I'm rainbow. I'm androgynous, rainbow dragoness, androgynous, whatever. Get that 50-50 with yours truly, but and I have some issues, but of course, I could always use a hug, HOG, and some massage. I'm open for business. I am financially stressed, but so many people are. On the table, I put some solutions because I believe in my Trinity of theories. With all the imperfections, the flaws that I do have, I do believe that the curse of Asperger's had made me to study in an independent manner, study, read, study, read, and then analyze in an independent manner, and I've come to some solution, a paradox. I've lost many friends in the past years. I've made Asperger's, can be, especially when I discuss geopolitics, and I can give a little bit of concordium. Now we got the main geopolitical event of the week is of course the re-election of Vladimir Putin. The main geopolitical event maybe of the week is the re-election of Vladimir Putin for another 6 years, The re-election of Vladimir Put him for another 6 years. So for another 6 years. For another 6 years. Because now he's gonna be empowered for another 6 years. And we got Operation NATO, saluting our NATO, 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 go NORAD, NATO, NORAD, NATO, NORAD, NATO. We got Operation going, the biggest operation of NATO, now on the ground, thinking about what's doing with them, how we're gonna be as citizens in case of a potential nuclear conflict. It's potential nuclear conflict, the conflict to go nuclear warheads. We have ICBM rockets, ICBM rockets. I know a little bit about them in a parallel life. This Aspie in a parallel life, I do create, build supercomputers, satellite supercomputers, ICBM rockets, satellites, coding, everything about technology, supercomputers, 6G, 7G, and knowledge is about, of course, Dragan super satellite computers integrated with the sun and floating about in the space and connected with solar and around synchronous orbits, and of course different constellations, united satellite connections with the NORAD, and of course NORAD, NATO united in that parallel life. I'm a super scientist. In this life, I'm a geopolitical analyst, a philosopher, a thinker, and of course rock and roll, and of course a dancer, an artist, an athlete, also independent artist and athlete for the people, from the people, always thinking about the butchers, the nurses, sending some love, rock and roll for those nurses and the doctors and the butchers and the bakers and the truckers and those in the warehouses, those lifting up those pallets, putting on those cooks, making some salads and some fries and hamburgers with it. We to go in from Montreal for that mayor. Back to the geopolitical analysis. The main event of the week is, of course, the re-election of Vladimir Putin. Today is Wednesday, the 20th of March. The re-election of Vladimir Putin. He got re-elected. So that is one of the main events in this week. If I could put it on the menu, we got to deal with that as NATO. 6 years. Of course, I can go into a deep analysis and say what an outrageous thing to be that he got re-elected with supposedly 88%, and whether free or fair or not, that's, of course. But I ask the question now. Ask the question. How much, if it would have been free and fair, my question would be, as a meditation, how much would have actually voted for him? In other words, would have Vladimir Putin still won the election if it would have been free and fair? If it would have been free and fair, would Vladimir Putin still win? That was the question. I don't know the answer. But would Vladimir Putin still win if the elections would have been free and fair? Let's say not with 88% as he did Sunday, but maybe with 66, maybe with 61, maybe with 56, maybe with 51, maybe with 50 plus percent, maybe with 51%. Because if it's 51, then you won. The other one can only have 49, right? If it's 100% is the max, so you would divide 100%. So that is the question. I don't know. I learned a little bit of Russian in the past years. I learned a little bit of Russian. But that's all I know from outside as a North American. What do I know? Really, I know Montreal, the island. I know Quebec, La Belle Province. I know Canada because I crossed it coast to coast. But so many things just to learn about Canada, my fellow 40 million Canadians. My brothers and sisters are gonna put that uniform in the national defense. Mr. Citizen, my brother Bill Blair. Big rainbow dragon hugs to my citizen brother Bill Blair. Big rainbow dragon hugs to my citizen Bill Blair. But you gotta say to that those forces, if you're gonna put on the uniform for reserve, whatever the case may be, you gotta change some of those diapers in the daycares, because national defense starts with our children, to the children, and of course, to those in the senior citizens' homes. Go change some diapers, give some food, and give some help, support defense. We got a new integrate. We gotta get that citizen CIT, my theory called the citizen integration theory, in depth in all places, coast to coast, coast to coast, coast to coast. This island is all I really know. As a philosopher thinker. I got LOV for my citizen brother Bill Blair, Minister of National Defense, and the Canadian Armed Forces, and that NATO, NORAD, NATO. Now they're going on the biggest operation since the 1989. In more than 35 years. Since the end of the Cold War, there hasn't been an operation as it is today. A special military operation. Supposedly Poland got that rainbow without the rainbow, but they got the dragon. But this rainbow dragon saluting that operation. Dragon, go, dragon. I sing rock and roll for that NATO. Firefighters with his butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, grocery store clerks, all those involved in the production, distribution of food, and the nurses with it, and of course all those who are now on the field, who go in that construction, going east, west, north, south, and doing with those, of course, what they do, and taking those hammers, putting up those steel boots on, and steel toe boots, and going on those cranes to build. We got a lot of building to do in the potholes and a lot of infrastructure, that we got to do in North American collective civilization across North America. We got so much infrastructure we need to rebuild. Infrastructure, roads and highways and buildings. We got it's a lot of work right here in North America. Myself included, being open for business. I do my work as a philosopher, rock and roll, rainbow style, with a lot of dancing, a lot of gratitude. I'm grateful, thankful, rent's paid, electricity bills paid, got food and coffee. Food is getting a bit pricier, but I budget, I manage it. I did launch my series on how to cook on a budget. Sometimes you get that bread, get that soup, and sometimes even desserts, making a little bit of sweets, because I like my wafers and my sweets. Sometimes I make it with less than $2. I just put hot water and wafers and mix the wafers with hot water and put a little bit of cocoa or sugar, whatever I have, or some oats with some sugar and hot water. Stir, stir, stir. I got myself a pudding. Got myself a pudding. Got myself a pudding. I love poodles, not in the pot. Poodles. Not those potholes. Those need to be fixed with that cement. Gotta put some rocks. But anyways, so back to what I was discussing. The geopolitical event of the main event of the week is Vladimir Putin's re-election. Is up gonna be for 6 years. 6 years. Now we got 6 years. 6 years. Supposedly been in power since 1999 with some flip flops, being prime minister, president, and prime minister. While Medvedev was there. But again, I'm looking, of course, because I like to do, when I do geopolitics, I go in depth from the left, from the right, from the center, from the right, from the left, from the center, from the left, from the right, from the center. So I go in depth in geopolitics. So I analyze and I will ask the question: if it would have been free and fair elections, what would have been the number? Would it still been 51? Would Vladimir Putin still win? Would have he still won the elections if it would have been free and fair? Yes, no, maybe. Yes, no, maybe. Yes, no, and maybe. 88%, of course. But nonetheless, regardless of that, he's in power in Russia. I'm a geopolitical analyst and theorist, philosopher, financially struggling, rich in trillions of kisses, some rock and roll with it, because I'm rich in art, rich in athletics, rich in philosophy, rich in geopolitical analysis, and the riches in dance. Dancing is my favorite sport. So that aside, we gotta deal with Putin in another manner. On the question of Ukraine, terrible tragedy. We gotta find a solution, resolution, but at the moment it seems more escalations. I can analyze, but I can always go in depth on any conflict. And I am a world peace advocate, but we have to channel the aggression. I have aggression, my brothers and sisters. I have it in me, but I channel it. I work out, I train, I exercise, I hike to the mountain, I work out, I train, I exercise, I hike, I jog, I dance, I work out, I do push-ups to channel it. Sometimes I'm still moody, but it's been years since I'm no longer depressed and suicidal. I conquered being depressed and suicidal. I've conquered being depressed and suicidal. I conquered it. But through great effort, and that event when I crossed Canada coast to coast made me to expand my horizon and see so many things I have here in Canada, so many things to see in North America. Although I believe in reincarnations and I'm a mystic, I was born in the USA twice, that way down south, post 1776, after 1776, after the independence, and even before 1492, right here, I was born in the island of Montreal. As a Quebecer pure land back then, and I helped Louis Cyr push some horses on the carts in that past life incarnation. I was born 3 times as a Quebecer post the 1800s, post 17 after the 1600s and 66 there. After, of course, Jean Mance, and close around about Montreal, and once a few times right by the mountain in the past life, and in the past in a little small city in Quebec. And of course, when I helped Louis Cyr push Louis Cyr is a strong man of the early 20th century, and I helped him push some horses on the carts with fellow other citizens, and that was a memory of a past life. So this is my home, the island of Montreal, island of Montreal, the island of Montreal is my home. The island of Montreal is my home. It's really all I know fundamentally. I know my past lives, incarnations a little bit. I know my rock and roll, my geopolitics. I know That I know. Ask me about geopolitical analysis and philosophy. I can go in depth and explore all subjects related to geopolitical analysis and everything that has to do with geopolitics. That I know because it's 24/7. Sports, dancing, I know a little bit of hockey, women's hockey rocks. Saluting that PWHL women's hockey rock. I love women's sports and I love basketball. I love football, North American football, that gridiron. I love the German national soccer team. That's soccer. The only soccer I really like is the German national soccer team. The German national soccer team. I like the German national soccer team, but besides that, I love a little bit of sports, more Super Bowl of the football. I love the 49ers. Give some charity though. Triple the cheerleader salaries. That's what I know. Give some. I would give myself to women's sports if I would have some money, because money is to give, and I would definitely finance women's sports leagues. I would definitely finance LGBTQ and food security, because those are important issues. But food security starts with our farmers, farmers butchers. Farmers butcher. Now get the Canadian Armed Forces to go say some thanks to the food producers. We gotta get know how much food production is going on. Who's producing the beans? Who's producing the beans? Where producing the beans? How much food is being produced across North America and the North American civilizational complex? Food housing. Surveillance and knowledge is important. In the public, we have to have a little bit of surveillance. We have to have a little bit of this. Not to the extreme. Not too much. Not to be extreme about security. Liberty and security, they gotta go in harmony, in balance, and equilibrium, just like the public and the private, to ensure liberty and freedom, and then exploit whatever characteristics and encourage people to work out, train, exercise, and to put whatever talents and energies, because sometimes we have energies, right? Me, it's that friends with benefits only. Me, it's that friends with benefits only, and the rest with casual, harmonious relations, which we need to build across North America and for world peace. Fundamentally, I am a North American. I believe in us as an emergent civilizational complex, which has emerged since about the Second World War in its current state, and where we made here in North America what I call the Great Linguistic Compromise, or the North American Linguistic Compromise. I compromised by law, by regulations, by encouragement to for the French language as a Quebecer, which I'm gonna spit a little bit in a French in about a few minutes or so. And we made with my black brothers and sisters, right? We have racism. I have black neighbors to my right side. When I go to my right, my neighbors are black. To my left side, I are Quebecers, and I have Mexican neighbors. So Mexico is part of North America. Mexico is part of North America. I learned some Spanish. I like Spanish. Mexico is part of North America. We gotta together as North Americans, and I propose my dream, the public-private partnership, the dancing goddess of the Dragon Kingdom, to do something similar to what they did in the European Union with the monetary integration, but based on my theory, the DRT, the debt refusion theory, which I discussed in videos in YouTube. My DRT stands for debt refusion R, refusion theory, DRT, debt refusion theory. That's what I'm calling on my astrological brother Bill Gates, Scorpio Bill Gates, all institutions and organizations, public and private, my citizen sister Christia Freeland, and the Federal Reserve, and all to support this theory, which again comes from the curse of Asperger's, which has given for myself and for others, for the collective, because we got to balance and harmony the individual and the collective. It can go in harmony, the individual and the collective. But the DRT theory, the debt refusion theory for the creation of the UE, is the only solution. The debt refusion to DRT, there's no other solution but the DRT, I can say. And that comes from my studies, my obsession as an Aspie, studying civilizations and study, in part of when you study civilizations, and my obsessions, of course, and my interest, and of course, ancient Sumeria, the Sumerians. Sumer was before Babylon, and Babylon and Sumeria, and of course was before, that's predates, that's 5,000 years ago, Sumer, or Uruk, and all those countries as nation city states of Sumeria and ancient Egypt and ancient Roman civilization. So those are my main areas of study as an independent civilizational student and analyst, and of course theorist if you want, or analyzer, student scholar, because I'm learning every day, scholar of those civilizations, and based in Sumeria, ancient Sumer. So those were, of course, the Sumerians, and of course the ancient Egyptians and the Babylonians, which predates and came nascent. They were given after they came after the Sumerians, after Sumer, but in that same area where present day Iraq or Mesopotamia. It's also, in other words, Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia is called in historical jargon, historical parlance, in the parlance of history is of course called Mesopotamia. So of course it predates the, of course, current the Roman Empire, and it predates the Babylonian and the Persian by a few thousand years when I refer to Sumer. But anyways, part of the Sumer and ancient Egyptian, of course, is part of the public finances, is part of the ancient civilization. So I studied, and of course I came to the conclusion that where we are set, this was years ago, that we're set again towards the confluence of public financial crises, and of course have created and I've studied a simple theory called the DRT, the debt refusion theory, which its implementation can save the even the world, can save the world. I can say it this way. Here I am financially struggling, but I can say, who am I? I'm a piece of dust. Sometimes I gotta give a little bit of slap to my own ego, myself sometimes, and gotta play it a bit of humbleness, but nonetheless, I could say all the curse of Aspers that can able to present the DRT, debt refusion theory, debt refusion theory, debt refusion theory for the creation of the UE, for the creation of the UE, of course, to get the universal exchange and to save the world from, not the world, but Montreal and of course Canada, North American and Western world, if you will, and throughout the world by the DRT theory for the creation of what I call the universal exchange unit, the UE. But because of the curse of Asperger's, having studied geopolitical analysis, and of course studied all the conflagrations and studied the politics and studied civilizations, and I've come to the analysis and have come to present the DRT, and I've presented in the past years in a form, in a linguistic communication, by communication, of course, by oral transmission, the form, of course, that it is now, and that I'm doing live on this live streaming for the 3G, 4G, 5G, and 12 the telecommunications, and going through the servers of Facebook and all those servers and all those interconnected computer, getting that sunlight, and of course getting that utilization of those microwaves, radio waves, which now go east, west, north, south throughout the world, and of course being able to utilize this technology, and we got to protect to that greater use and for the use of the individual, and for needed we can apply tech and surveillance for securing liberty and encouraging people to work out, to train, and to exercise. I believe it. I have full hope we can encourage people to work out, train, exercise, especially by the implementation of my DRT theory, the debt refusion theory, for the creation of the universal exchange unit, the UE. The UE, Universal Exchange Unit, based on biometrics, hand, voice are unique biometric identifiers. So the DRT theory, I'm going to explain it quick. So the DRT theory is like this, and keep in mind that the DRT theory contains what's called in it monetary integration theory. Monetary integration theory is exactly what was done in the European Union, and of course what the European Union did is, of course, they added all the currencies. The Germans got rid of the Deutschmark, the Italians got rid of the lira, the French got rid of the franc, so they added all conflagration together, and they joined in the monetary union, and they created the euro. The euro. So many countries, I think about 28 countries, got rid of all their old currencies, and they created they did what's called in finance monetary integration, and they of course created the euro. So monetary integration, my DRT theory, debt refusion theory, which I present to you on the table now, is that of course was created, contains my DRT theory, debt refusion theory, contains monetary integration theory, what was done in Europe with the creation of the euro back decades, and it predates in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and it evolved in the 1990s, and now lately more countries have been added to it, and now in Europe they have the euro, which has risen to a lot of prominence in world business, commerce, and international finance. But still the United States dollar is still the main currency of exchange and import export in international finance, that Wall Street now going crazy, buying, selling futures, option, puts, stocks, buying, selling futures, option, puts, stocks, buying, selling futures, options, put, stocks. Give some charity. If you make a million, 10% of a million is 100,000, divided, give it by 4, 25,000 for food security, 25,000 for women's sports leagues, 25,000 for LGBTQ causes, and 25,000 for environmental issues. You can give it for those four different causes: environmental issues, food security, and women's sports leagues, and of course LGBT causes. Please, 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 if you make a million today, you got until 4 o'clock, buying, selling, future options, puts, until 4 o'clock. You got 3 more hours to buy, sell on that Wall Street. And keep in mind that our electricity from Hydro-Quebec Go is the song 24/7 Build More Dams, is of course, it goes all the way to the United States, all the way to Manhattan. The electricity goes to the wires all the way to Manhattan Island. Yes, it does. All the way to Manhattan Island, the electricity goes all the way to Manhattan Island, all the way to Manhattan Island, all the way to Manhattan Island. The electricity goes all the way to Manhattan Island, all the way to Manhattan. So probably Wall Street receives a little bit of electricity. But anyways, the DRT theory, debt refusion theory, stands and it contains what's called monetary integration theory. You got to keep that in mind. So I'm going to now explain it briefly. So the DRT theory, take all public and private debt. My debt is $10,500, yours all debt of all Canadians. And I got to say that the only solution is the DRT theory, due to the fact that now this fiscal year 2023-2024 we're going to pay twice as much interest servicing the debt. In other words, servicing the public debt servicing cost, the interest we pay on the debt is 46.5 billion. A billion is 1,000 million, so it's got so many zeros, so it's 20.3 was in 2020, 2021. 20.3 times 3 would have been 40.6. So now it's 46.5 billion. A billion is 1,000 million, got so many zeros, so that is the number, which is of course now is in the billions. A billion has 9 0. It is, and yours truly, I gotta say, although 10,500 in debt, I am rich in kisses got by the trillions, credited from the Forgotten Goddess, support building the Forgotten Goddess temple and the House of the Dragon. And of course, I do encourage all to work out, train, exercise, and support the DRT. The DRT theory once again explains simply. So take all public and private debt, all the private and the public debt, refuse it, and create what I call the Universal Exchange Unit. The Universal Exchange Unit for the creation of the UE. So we'll take all the public and the private debt, all citizens, all public and private debt. My private debt, 10,500. Since the United States dollar is still the currency of exchange, convert all the Canadian dollar debt in US dollar, the Mexican debt US dollar, all countries of North America, convert it to US dollar, add it all up. All this money, the public and the private debt, will be the initial money supply for a new North American central graded bank or a new financial institution to issue what I call the UE. UE stands for U dot E dot U dot Universal Exchange Unit. The Universal Exchange Unit. U dot E dot U dot the Universal Exchange Unit. The Universal Exchange Unit stands. That's what I'm calling him, astrological brother Bill Gates of that Microsoft. Like biometrics, the hand, the voice, now unique biometric identifiers, and we can have dual biometrics, digital, and it can be also the UE can be like we have now with the coins and the the bills, the dollar bills. It could be the UE. The UE will be the equivalent of what the United States dollar is, because the United States dollar is still the currency of choice of international finance, global commerce. So we're gonna standardize. We can freeze at that point in time all the prices of the bread, of all the goods, so that we fight inflation. No more inflation, right? There's a good solution. The DRT, to save the world from financial catastrophe. North America from public-private financial catastrophe, and then mass finance, public rebuilding of infrastructure, citizens to work out, train, exercise, to rebuild, and build more highways and public transport, and a lot of tourism, and things for wellness. Public wellness, that money. So all the debt, public and private debt, refuse to put it all together. All that money will be the initial money supply for this new global central bank. All that money, the public and the private debt will be the initial money supply. So in the trillions, to create this new currency called the UE, Universal Exchange Unit, the Universal Exchange Unit, the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit. That is the solution, brothers and sisters. See, this is the curse of Asperger's. I've made that. I study. Now I'm able to present on the table the solution. That's what I'm calling on the Bank of International Settlements, the World Bank, the IMF, all bankers, public and private. Mr. Another Scorpio, Larry Fink of Blackstone and BlackRock. BlackRock is not the same as Blackstone and BlackRock are not the same. But sometimes people confuse them, and Blackstone is a financial institution. BlackRock is a different one than Blackstone. But they're all, another one is Larry Fink. So those are private, because it takes a private and a public partnership to do this. So the DRT, the debt refusion theory, and of course Lincoln built new supercomputers and centers of management in a public-private partnership manner. Microsoft, Bill Gates, with all the structures of the servers of Facebook, of Instagram, of Google, build more supercomputers, and of course create the UE. And of course that will be the initial money supply. All the debt is going to be in the trillions to issue this new currency, the Universal Exchange Unit. And then we'll set an interest prices, set at that price, at that moment in time, can start today on the 20th of March with me. The DRT starts with me. Support the DRT, debt refusion theory. Support the DRT, debt refusion theory. Support the DRT, and then we can build more satellites, put some webcams all over North America and the West, NORAD, NATO, NORAD, NATO, NORAD, NATO. With 32 countries now. Who's gonna be the 33rd? Who's gonna be the 33rd? Who's gonna be the 33rd country? NATO. That's not a geopolitical matter, right? It's not geopolitics. Could say a lot of things, you know. It's countries of NATO. Got that military alliance. Get that Dragon public-private partnership. NATO, NATO, NATO. Across NATO. It's gonna be the 33rd. Maybe gonna expand it to 44. Expand it to 44. Expand it to 44. Gotta get those NATO. Mexico. Could be Mexico. Why not? Mexican brothers and sisters. We gotta work together with Mexican brothers and sisters. You know, we got North America. Got NORAD and NATO. That's the DRT theory is the only solution, my brothers and sisters. Not a solution. There's no other solution where we are now, public finance. And with that, we can create so much good for the wellness, for the individual and the collective. For the collective and the individual, harmony, equilibrium, balance, a new world order. Here I am, financially struggling. Who am I? Well, I'm a piece of dust sometimes. What do I know? I know this and that, but I know my rock and roll. I know my geopolitics, and I know the DRT. I know that the DRT is the only solution. There's no other solution but my DRT for the creation of the Universal Exchange Unit. I know a little bit of rock and roll, a little bit of poetry, in the parallel life, super satellites, constellation. I'm a hybrid of Elon Musk, Bill Gates, and of course Mark Zuckerberg. I'm like a hybrid Aspies super scientist, and I build satellites, and of course we're gonna build more satellites with that DRT. All the money, public and private debt, that will be the initial money supply of this new central bank, and I will still live a simple, austere, severe lifestyle. Because even with money, and I am rich, but what is money? Fundamentally, money is to buy, sell. Money is to buy, sell. Money is to buy, sell. Fundamentally, that is what the purpose of money is, to buy and to sell. Right? So with that money, we're going to be able to do a lot of good. Ensure freedom, secure liberty, encourage people to work out, train, exercise, rebuild a lot of infrastructure, rebuild a lot of public infrastructure, support citizens to travel, Inter-North American Travel Tourism Corporation, Inter-North American Travel Tourism Corporation, Inter-North American Travel Tourism Corporation. It takes public-private partners, takes effort. What can I do? Well, I put on the table kisses by the trillions, first and foremost, hugs, rock and roll. Give yourselves a hug like you never hugged before is the main message is. Give yourself a hug like you never hugged before. Give yourself a hug like you never hugged before. Health, wellness, and it starts with admitting our natures, our XYZs. You know, sexual liberation, whatever it is. It's not has not come without blood, sweat, and tears for myself, and I've been free for years, and I have accepted in the past years my Asperger. Survived COVID 4 years ago. It was like death, pestilence, and disease. Like death, pestilence, and disease. Death, pestilence, and disease for me. COVID. Got hit. COVID. I survived. I'm being reborn. On this island I died. I'm being reborn on this island, Montreal metropolis, for North America, for world peace as well. But all I really know is the island. I know a little bit of this. I know my DRT theory is the only solution. There's no other solution but my DRT theory. At this moment in time we pay so much interest on the public debt. It went from, in 2020, 2021, you can check public numbers in the official public numbers. These are official public numbers. And of course, we paid 20.3 billion just to service the debt. Now 2023, 2024, we pay more than double, 46.5 billion just to service the interest on the public debt. All this money, we got to build infrastructure. So the DRT, take all the public and the private debt, refuse it. That means that we're going to add it all together, North American countries, convert the Canadian public and private debt to US dollars, Mexican peso debt to the US dollars, and create like they did in Europe. We can unite transatlantically. It can be NORAD NATO to create a transatlantic union across NORAD countries and NATO. We can add Mexico, North America, and create the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit. Standardize all the prices of bread, prices of butter, prices of cheese. Standardize. Standardization of prices, and then secure food, housing, and transport, and then incentivize citizens to work out, train, exercise, do art, do volunteering for pleasure and purpose. So the body is the temple for pleasure and purpose. The body is the temple for pleasure and purpose. I'm willing to wash feet. I'm willing. With consent, hygiene. I'm willing to wash feet. Consent and hygiene. I'm willing to clean, scrub, all dancing, all singing, dragon dancing, goddess and dragon kingdom, public-private partnership army, the PPP. is the solution. The DRT, there's no other way. Citizen integration theory, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. Citizen integration theory, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. Citizen integration theory, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. Citizen integration theory, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. And the DRT for the creation of the UE. There's no other solution, my brothers and sisters, but the DRT and the CIT, and of course the democratic fusion theory. That Trinity of theories. That's the dream. The implementation of my Trinity of theories for a public-private partnership, because when I say support the dream, the dancing goddess in the Dragon Kingdom, is fundamentally a call for a public-private partnership across North American collective civilization, aka across North America, and of course across the transatlantic NATO member countries, of which Sweden has joined NATO, and of course of which there are 32 countries now in NATO. We're 31, and now Sweden has joined, so Sweden is part of NATO. But we need public-private partnership. My brother Jen Stolberg, I can rock and roll for our troops, rock and roll dance for our NATO troops. Gonna do a little bit of dance and rock and roll for that NATO go. Gotta start with that LOV. You know, my rock and roll song is gonna start with that LOV for that West Side. West Side NATO, man. Gotta give a play that Rainbow Dragon for the NATO troops. Play that Rainbow Dragon rock and roll for our NATO troops. NATO troops. Play that Rainbow rock and roll for our NATO troops. NATO troops. Gotta get that freedom insured, man. 10,500 in debt, but I'm grateful, thankful my rent's paid, electricity bills paid, got food and coffee. I got food, I got coffee. I'm grateful for that. It's 1 o'clock sharp. I need to go to get a little bit of workout. I want to try to leave by 1:30, close to 2 o'clock. Get my workout done, go to the mount. You can see I have routines. I still got a cleaning yesterday. I started cleaning, ending the 40-day, right? And I'm going to show a little bit of that because my anonymous sister friend gave me these. So I put my priorities, starting from the month of January. Steve, priorité. And I said from the month of January, and I finished, of course, with rock and roll here for that. Punctuality, my forces are intensity, creativity, vigor, and Asperger's. See, that's what I put as my forces. Intensity, creativity, vigor, and the fourth dimension, Asperger's, as a force. Intensity, creativity, vigor. At the beginning of 2024, those are my forces. Intensity, creativity, vigor. And then things to work on: punctuality, finances, and Asperger's symptoms. And then I put the fourth dimension, love. So I put here's éléments à améliorer. What is those elements to improve? It's punctuality, finances, and of course Asperger's symptoms. These symptoms of Asperger's. See, and then love, lovers, blah 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 blah. You make love for me with the butchers. Love you butchers, love you bakers, love you nurses, love you doctors, love you firefighters, love you those truckers, love the truckers on the road, love the firefighters, love the construction workers. We love our butchers, we love our nurses, we love our doctors, we love our firefighters, we love our, of course, warehouse workers, we love our dock workers, we love our butchers, we love our plumbers, we love our public workers changing the aqueducts, we send them some LOV. To the plumbers, to the butchers, warehouse workers, cashiers, those in the fast food, flipping some burgers, and of course flipping some burgers, and of course getting off course for that, flipping on that, that rock and roll for those burgers and those flipping. We love our truckers, we love our nurses, we love our doctors, we love our firefighters. I could do just a vigil of an hour to just send some LOV to our NATO troops, to our firefighters, to our butchers, to our nurses. LOV, getting that LOV for that action, for that healing, wellness, blah 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 blah. If you're not talking about love, love is also action. I really don't want nothing to do with it, man. I lose you. Money, what is money? Money. It's not all about the money. Eh? It's not all about the money. It's not all about the money. It's not all about the money. It's not all about the money, you know. Sometimes it's not all about the money. So here it is. That was my the forces and monthly evaluations, and then I finished it. I finished it on that yesterday. So I think it was 66 days, the calendar, and I said, what are we gonna do? Clean the temple. I clean tomorrow. I still gotta clean, and of course things for the making cleaning and rock and roll workout dance event, and get to receive from others is love, alliance, partnership, and business, and then business, partnership, alliance, and love. That's gonna be concluded. So that was a new calendar. So starting a new calendar, I'm gonna start a new calendar. I'm gonna use the same, but I'm gonna have to do it by hand. So I'm gonna have to do it by hand here. So it's gonna be for the 22 days. How many days I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we got that 9 and we got 9. So we're gonna do some more. And we're gonna add some more 2 pages in here. We're gonna put some more, and then that will be concluding it. So here's what we got. So now we're gonna get that DRT, and we're gonna of course create the UE, of course, create the universal exchange unit. So this is what we're gonna get for that DRT, and we're gonna get for that UE. And to support the DRT, the debt fusion theory, I believe, is the one solution and the only solution which can, of course, improve all the situations that we're facing now financially. But it has to be implemented. That's why I'm calling on the public-private partnership. My citizen sister, Christia Freeland. Apologize for the mispronunciation, but it's of course Minister of Finance and of course the Federal Reserve and all public and private institutions to support the dream, the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom for the creation, of course, of the universal exchange and my astrological brother Bill Gates, of course, to create it and of course to get a little bit of DRT to create the UE and of course to support the dream and to create the public-private partnership, the dancing goddess and the Dragon Army public-private partnership, and of course for the Dragon Army, North American Citizen Integrated Social Security and Service Force, and the DGA, the Dancing Goddess Army, and of course to create a new complex across the North American Civilizational Collective for a public-private partnership for security and service, integrated with all institutions and organizations, institutions for the 21st century, public-private partnership institutions, and of course, based on some of my philosophies, not only mine, but my philosophies, of course, just the body is a temple for pleasure and purpose, and encourage citizens to work out, train, exercise, and encourage citizens to work out, train, exercise, and for fitness, and of course, to clean and to mass clean the environment for environmental education and action, because I go to that mountain for years. I've been going and doing my own little vigorous taking of the cans and of course the plastic which are there, and of course we got that environment which needs to be of course cleaned, and we gotta need of course to be a little bit of cleaning, and it needs a little bit of vigor to do it, and of course it needs a little bit of action while we do it, so it takes some of those action, not just words. So now we're gonna switch to that French because we're in la belle province, so of course we on this island right here, right now, to get it on that 66 minutes, 106. Switch it to that French. Grateful, thankful that my rent's paid, electricity bills paid, got food and coffee. Get ready for that French. We're gonna start singing for the butchers, bakers, nurses, make love and workout, train, exercise. Et bienvenue dans la grotte de Dragon Arc-en-Ciel. Je lève ma tasse de café, envoie l'amour, outre public, qui change les aqueducs. Et puis bien sûr, je dois dire ma gratitude. C'est mon loyer qui est payé pour le mois de mars. J'ai payé mon loyer, j'ai payé ma facture d'électricité, puis j'ai du café puis du thé. Puis en ce moment, je fais du rock'n'roll le 24/24. Dans la grotte du dragon arc-en-ciel, je vous envoie l'amour. Et je vous encourage à faire l'entraînement physique et soutenir le rêve de votre dragon arc-en-ciel qui se manifeste comme le royaume de la déesse et du dragon qui danse, qui est fondamentalement un appel pour un partenariat public-privé à travers la belle province. On envoie l'amour à nos fermiers, dans les champs qui font pour le printemps, qui s'en viennent pour les nouveaux champs de patates, pour des cerises et bien sûr pour les pompiers, les travailleurs en sécurité publique, en service public qui changent les aqueducs, les infirmières, les travailleurs dans les garderies qui changent les couches, les enfants qu'on les aime, puis bien sûr et les enseignants qui conjuguent un verbe du Becherel pour l'amour, que ça soit pour la danse. Danser, venez, c'est mon sport préféré. Votre aspect artiste va discuter bien sûr avoir survécu la COVID. Voilà! 4 ans, en février 2020 jusqu'en mars, à peu près ce temps-ci, mi-février, mi-mars, j'étais vraiment malade, c'était la COVID, j'étais frappé par la COVID, puis avant ça, j'étais en dépression, puis suicidaire, puis j'ai conquis la dépression, puis être suicidaire, quand j'ai traversé le Canada de côte à côte. Cet événement, ça m'a propulsé, ça a fait que je suis sorti de la dépression, puis être suicidaire, puis quand j'ai traversé le Canada, cet événement-là, en 2017, en août, Puis en septembre, et bien sûr, ça m'a fait traverser le Canada. Puis j'ai dit, waouh, tellement de choses que j'ai à voir, que j'ai à faire à travers de côte à côte, à travers le Canada, puis à travers la belle province, que je suis sorti de la dépression, puis j'étais dépression suicidaire, puis j'ai dit, waouh. Après cet événement-là, ça m'a fait dire, puis je dis, ouais, tellement de choses que je dois faire, que je dois visiter à travers le Canada, puis à écrire des chansons rock and roll, à composer des poèmes, puis à avoir des idées de cinéma, de films, puis à faire mes philosophies, puis bien sûr en tant qu'artiste, athlète et philosophe. Rock'n'roll indépendant, qui n'est pas parfait loin de là, des fois, avec l'Asperger's, hein, vous savez, je suis Aspies, j'ai l'Asperger's, des fois j'ai des gestes un peu répétitifs avec la main, où je prends ma tasse de la main droite, la main gauche avant de boire, il n'y a pas de médicament pour l'Asperger's, c'est une condition neurologique, l'Asperger's, en état Aspies, c'est juste qu'il faut que je gère la gestion de mes symptômes, et bien sûr que je dois reconnaître que, en tant qu'Aspie, j'ai des obsessions, des intérêts obsessifs, comme pour moi-même, c'est la géopolitique, le sport, la danse est mon sport préféré, ainsi que l'entraînement physique. Et donc ça, c'est mes forces, bien sûr, l'entraînement physique, la géopolitique et l'entraînement physique. Et bien sûr, les études de civilisation, J'ai étudié pendant des années les civilisations, puis la géopolitique, j'en fais sur 24. Puis cette semaine, le point géopolitique du point de vue global, international, parce qu'on a de Montréal, puis local de l'Amérique du Nord. Quand je dis local, d'habitude, je parle d'un point de vue en tant que philosophe, québécois, canadien, nord-américain, parce que pour la paix mondiale aussi, je peux être universel aussi, mais bien sûr, tout ce que je connais, bien sûr, en tant que mes expériences, c'est l'île de Montréal. La métropole de 2,5 millions, j'envoie l'amour. Les camionneurs dans les camions, puis ceux qui sont dans les travailleurs publics qui changent les aqueducs, puis l'Hydro-Québec. Leur centre pour qu'ils bâtissent, construisent d'autres centrales parce que c'est grâce aux centrales de l'Hydro-Québec est bâtie dans le passé, ça apprend de la vieille école aussi pour la nouvelle, le 21e siècle, que je suis en train de faire. Une vidéo en ce moment avec l'électricité qui ne pollue pas, puis ben ça pollue un peu, mais pas beaucoup. C'est environnemental, l'Hydro-Québec, ça utilise les lacs, les rivières de la baie James, là, chez nous, dans la Romaine. On chante votre dragon, puis je vous danse pour en bâtir et construire d'autres centrales en voyant de l'amour à l'Hydro-Québec, les infirmières, les enseignants, puis tous ceux qui produisent la production alimentaire dans les restaurants maintenant, qui font dans les restaurants des poutines, des salades, amour et santé, puis bien sûr avec bien du rock'n'roll, il est 1h10 de l'après-midi, et bien sûr je vous envoie de l'amour, puis je vous fais ça, que vous encourage à faire l'entraînement physique. Mais bon, vous savez que moi j'ai les obsessions de l'Asperger's, et je suis obsédé par les études en géopolitique, mais encore une fois, fondamentalement en tant que Nord-Américain, Québécois, Canadien, en principe, qu'est-ce que je connais le plus? C'est l'île de Montréal, le Québec, la belle province, le Canada, puis l'Amérique du Nord. Mais il y a tellement de choses que je ne sais pas moi-même. Il y a tellement de choses que je ne sais pas. Je regarde la lumière, qu'est-ce que j'en sais un petit peu de diamètre, de centimètres, mais il y a tellement de choses que je ne sais pas comment ça fonctionne. Puis j'ai bien des questions, mais je connais ma géopolitique. Puis cette semaine, le point numéro 1 de la géopolitique, c'est bien sûr l'analyse de votre analyste et théoricien en géopolitique qui ça a faire avec Vladimir Poutine. Et Vladimir Poutine, il a été réélu pendant encore 6 ans. 6 ans, 6. Le chiffre avant 7, 6, 6. Et ça, c'est le point numéro 1 de la géopolitique qui se passe en ce moment de cette semaine principalement, c'est l'élection. Il a été réélu, Vladimir Poutine pendant encore 6 ans. Ça va faire qu'il va se rendre dans 30 ans parce qu'il était au pouvoir depuis 99. Ça fait déjà 25 ans qu'il est au pouvoir, fait que ça va faire 31 ans avec ses 6 ans. Mais ça, c'est le point principal, parce qu'avec le conflit en Ukraine, bien sûr, puis qu'est-ce qui se passe, puis nous-mêmes, en tant que Canadiens et Québécois, on fait partie de l'organisation l'OTAN. L'organisation transatlantique, qui est une alliance militaire, mais l'Ukraine ne fait pas partie de l'OTAN, mais on a un nouveau membre, la Suède, il y a 32 pays membres de l'OTAN, l'organisation de l'OTAN. Et bien sûr, moi je suis un analyste en géopolitique, fait que si je commence à parler de la géopolitique, je vais faire une analyse profonde des points de vue, je vais aller du centre de la gauche, de la droite, au centre de la gauche et de la droite, puis bien sûr, en tant que philosophe rock'n'roll du 21e siècle, je propose ma trinité de théories sur la table, et bien sûr que je fais appel à tous et toutes à soutenir mon rêve, et bien sûr qui se manifeste comme le royaume de la déesse et du dragon qui danse. Et soutenez s'il vous plaît, en envoyant l'amour au travail de construction. Moi quand je vois les travails de construction, je salue puis je les admire, puis je fais du rock'n'roll pour eux autres, parce que c'est eux autres qui construisent, qui bâtissent, en plus les bâtiments, puis les maisons, puis ça vont sur les grues, puis moi je suis un petit peu un fanatique, partisan des grues, tu sais les grues, là, Ça nous a permis de construire des gratte-ciels, puis j'aime ça aller voir les travailleurs de construction quand ils vont avec la grue, puis en sécurité, puis tout ça, ça me fait chanter du rock'n'roll. Je chante du rock'n'roll pour les travailleurs en construction, les camionneurs, les infirmières, les boulangers, les boulangers, dans les boucheries, dans les boucheries, puis bien sûr, tous ceux qui font la production alimentaire, et bien sûr, tous ceux qui sont en train d'aller sur les autoroutes maintenant avec les camions, puis tous ceux qui vont à la gauche, la droite, au nord, au sud, puis livrant nos aliments, puis bien sûr, dans les garderies, dans les infirmières, puis les enseignants, puis tout ça, je chante du rock'n'roll. Je suis l'artiste rock'n'roll du peuple Aspies avec Asperger's, mais puis avec amnésie rétrograde, par exemple. Puis bien sûr, avoir survécu la COVID, je vous encourage à vous faire vacciner, puis augmenter les jeunes en public. Puis je peux pas dire, puis répéter que c'est super important de faire l'entraînement physique. C'est super important de faire l'entraînement physique québécois et québécoise. Puis je continue à faire appel. Ça fait des années que je fais appel. Personne ne répond au téléphone. C'est pas grave. Je continue à le faire. Puis parce que car j'ai la gratitude de mon loyer est payé. J'ai payé mon loyer pour le mois de mars. J'ai payé ma facture d'électricité. J'ai du café puis du thé. Puis bien sûr, j'ai payé mon loyer. Puis je vous encourage à faire l'entraînement physique. La gratitude, c'est super important. Au quotidien, la gratitude. Puis je suis pas parfait loin de là. Dans certaines choses, je suis médiocre moi-même. Dans certaines choses, je suis comme ci, comme ça. Dans d'autres choses, je suis pas bon. Mais je suis super en géopolitique, excellent à la danse. Puis bon en études de civilisation. Puis je peux en discuter des civilisations, mais spécialité en tant qu'étudiant, puis comme, qui étudie les civilisations. C'est la Sumérie, ou la Babylone en Mésopotamie, puis l'ancienne Égypte, puis l'ancien Rome, l'empire romain, c'était la civilisation romaine, c'était pas un empire, au début c'était un royaume, puis après ça a été devenu une république, puis après ça c'est devenu un empire, mais la civilisation de l'ancienne Rome, romaine, pas être confondu avec roumaine, c'est la Rome de l'ancienne Rome, mais la Roumanie, ça veut dire la nouvelle Rome en latin, tout ça, puis notre langue, le français, ça vient du latin aussi, hein. Puis on a bien, si on va sur les villes, bien sûr, on voit bien les écritures comme la devise de Montréal, c'est en latin. La devise les villes du Québec, la ville du Québec, la devise du Canada, c'est en latin. Admare, masqué, admare, ça veut dire de l'océan ou de mer en mer, c'est en latin. Beaucoup de nos devises, puis de nos noms, puis de tout ça, ça vient de la civilisation romaine, puis c'est ça que j'en connais un peu. Bien sûr, aujourd'hui, la gratitude dans la province le 20 mars, en commençant par le rock'n'roll, puis la gratitude de mon loyer, puis ma facture d'électricité, puis j'ai du café, puis du thé, puis bien sûr, j'envoie de l'amour, puis je vous encourage à faire l'entraînement physique, super important de faire de l'entraînement physique au quotidien, je peux pas dire, puis je répète, parce que c'est super important de faire de l'entraînement physique, et puis ça fait du bien toujours quand je m'entraîne, puis j'ai sorti de la dépression il y a 6 ans, j'étais en dépression, puis suicidaire, puis l'événement qui m'a fait sortir moi-même de la dépression, c'est qu'exactement quand j'ai traversé le Canada de côte à côte, c'était en 2017, en août, puis en septembre, puis j'ai dit, waouh, tellement de choses pour voir, pour faire, pour écrire des livres d'enfants, pour faire de l'entraînement physique, pour visiter des petites villes, des grosses villes, puis pour voir à travers l'Amérique du Nord, puis cet événement-là, ça m'a fait sortir de la dépression. Puis là, j'ai sorti de la dépression, puis j'ai dit, waouh, et je commençais à m'entraîner, j'ai créé mon propre système d'entraînement physique, j'ai eu des emplois, l'emploi bien sûr avec le compostage. Puis je dois dire, merci à ceux des travailleurs publics qui ramassent les poubelles à chaque semaine. J'ai 3 services, puis 3 services à travers les villes d'Amérique du Nord, le service de sanitation publique, super important de mentionner les services publics, le ramassage des poubelles. Merci pour ceux qui ramassent les poubelles. Et c'est des athlètes, ça en met sur les gros camions en ciment, avec du fer. Puis bien sûr, je dois leur remercier pour enlever ma poubelle, pour enlever bien sûr le recyclage, puis bien sûr pour enlever le compostage, le recyclage, puis les poubelles chez nous. C'est un beau service, puis bien sûr, il faut que j'apprécie, puis j'apprécie celle-là 24 sur 24, parce qu'il y a du rock'n'roll là, de ma grotte pour les travailleurs publics. 24 sur 24, je vous vois, et puis les camions à travers l'Amérique du Nord, les infirmières, les bouchers, dans les boulangeries, les charcutiers, les charcuteries, cuisine, puis bien sûr moi-même, j'ai du nettoyage à faire sur moi-même. Bon, l'événement géopolitique de cette semaine, c'est bien sûr Vladimir Poutine. Il a été réélu, ben, là il faut qu'on fasse avec, mais même si je fais une analyse, il faut le tenir compte, puis je dois dire que bien sûr, je le fais en tant que Québécois, Canadien, non-américain, puis bien sûr en étant aussi un guide spirituel universel, un mystique, j'y crois bien sûr à la réincarnation, puis j'y crois bien sûr qu'on a été réincarné, bien sûr, puis moi-même, en tant que j'ai été né une fois proche de la ville de Montréal, mais proche du bas de la montagne, je veux dire sur l'île de Montréal plusieurs fois, après 1666, quand Jean de Mars a établi la ville de Montréal, à Ville-Marie, ou après ça a changé du Mont-Royal, puis j'étais né au bas de la montagne, le Mont-Royal qui est maintenant ma deuxième maison, puis j'ai aidé Louis Cyr à pousser des chevaux sur une calèche dans une autre vie, puis bien sûr, dans d'autres vies, j'ai été né plusieurs fois en tant que Purlaine, pas pleine, c'est pas grave si on les invite à la danse, c'est pas grave, s'ils sont pas Purlaines, on les aime, qui viennent danser avec nous autres en belle province, qui viennent danser avec nous autres, de l'est, de l'ouest, du nord, du sud, c'est la montagne, puis hein, j'entends du bon rock and roll bilingue, y a pas de problème, comme Céline, sa colline, c'est pleine de la montagne, ça s'éloigne comme un aigle, ça danse sans gêne. Il y a du rock and roll chez nous, hein, composition 24 sur 24 du bon rock and roll du 21e siècle, avec un peu de folklorique un peu, hein, un peu de folklorique du Québec un peu, mais je serais quand même, je suis citoyen du monde, je suis ouvert pour être universel, mais je suis québécois, canadien, nord-américain, puis c'est dans une autre vie, puis c'est ici chez nous, puis je suis mort de la COVID sur l'île de Montréal, je renais sur la ville de Montréal, puis bien sûr, même si je fais une analyse profonde de la géopolitique, qu'est-ce qui se passe en Russie, fait fondamentalement, je suis Montréalais, Québécois, Canadien, Nord-Américain, de l'Amérique du Nord, pour le collectif de civilisation nord-américain, en tant que philosophe, qu'est-ce que j'appelle le complexe de civilisation nord-américain, dont en Amérique du Nord, on a fait le grand compromis linguistique. Le grand compromis linguistique, ça a été un compromis qu'on continue à le faire, le grand compromis linguistique du Québec. Oui, de l'Amérique du Nord, pour le français. On continue à le faire, des fois, il y a des tensions et tout ça, mais moi-même, comment je contribue pour le français du Québec, c'est par le rock and roll, la poésie, la comédie, bien sûr, un peu, puis bien sûr, pas juste ça, mais en la philosophie, puis les idées de cinéma puis de film que je veux produire, puis je veux voir qui soient faites, bien sûr, dans les prochains jours, semaines, mois à venir, des années à venir, surtout le film La Belle Province, que j'avais fait des centaines de vidéos d'entraînement physique, puis avec mes compositions de films en mode libre, ou du rock'n'roll en mode libre, ou bien sûr un peu structuré, parce que ça en prend des deux, hein. La liberté et la sécurité, ben, ça en prend des deux, puis en tant que moi-même, j'ai toujours la gratitude, puis je dois répéter ma gratitude, je répète la gratitude, pas juste parce que je suis un Aspies, que les Aspergers, nous autres, on fait des gestes un peu étranges, puis on répète deux, trois fois la même chose, puis on est obsédé par certains sujets, au point de vue obsessif, mes intérêts d'obsession, c'est la géopolitique ou les études puis l'analyse en géopolitique. Et je suis un analyste et théoricien en géopolitique. Et le sport, c'est un autre de mes obsessions. La danse est mon sport préféré, bien sûr. Pas avec le sport, la danse, la géopolitique aussi. C'est les études de civilisation, les études civilisationnelles, de civilisation, comme l'ancienne civilisation romaine, de l'ancienne Égypte et de l'ancienne Sumérie. Puis l'hygiène en public, microbes, des germes puis des bactéries neufs, et qu'il faut qu'on se lave les mains quand on touche les affaires, surtout quand on pitonne sur les de la banque, parce que là je vois qu'ils ont enlevé les se laver les mains, le désinfectant, le gel antibactérien, les gels antibactériens, le gel antibactérien ils ont enlevé, mais j'aimerais ça le garder parce que c'est super important, l'hygiène en public. Puis quand on sort en public, hein, moi ici, ma grotte, je suis dans ma grotte. Dans ma grotte de Dragan arc-en-ciel, j'ai pas les mêmes responsabilités, obligations que j'aurais si je suis dans le public. Quand je sors dans le public, j'ai d'autres responsabilités, obligations qui se rajoutent. En tant que citoyen, je n'ai pas les mêmes. Quand je suis ici, à ma grotte, je peux, ben, il y a d'autres choses que je peux faire que je peux pas faire dans le public. C'est toujours une balance, une harmonie, puis un équilibre, tu sais, un équilibre. Puis là, quand je dis tantôt, je dis parler en anglais, si je serais juge, de juger, tu sais, pour porter un jugement, je vais commencer la série de justice dans les prochains jours, semaines, mois à venir, mais juste pour donner un bref aperçu, tu sais, je m'imagine en tant que juge, tu sais, que je suis, je me prends pas trop au sérieux des fois, mais je suis quand même poussière, mais je suis quand même un égo aussi. J'aime ça les gaufres, manger du sucré puis tout ça, puis un bon massage, mais bon, pas besoin de financer moi les millionnaires, milliardaires un massage, financer les fermiers puis les infirmières un massage thérapeutique à la place, puis dans mon nom, Dragon arc-en-ciel, donnez-vous un câlin comme jamais avant. Un gros câlin comme en 15 minutes, une période d'hockey, blablabla. Bien sûr, si je serais juge, tu sais, il y a une cause qui dit, il faut que je discerne, puis je pose des questions. Mais qu'est-ce qui s'est passé pour faire, mettons, un vol? Un vol. Y a-tu volé un pain? Tu sais, voler un pain pour manger, je vous demande. Monsieur Y, Dragon, vous avez eu faim? J'ai eu faim, j'ai volé un pain. Bien, il a volé un pain pour manger, le pain. Une baguette, un pain ou des croissants. Mais c'est pas la même chose s'ils volent de la champagne. Il faut discerner. Voler la champagne, rien à voir avec la faim. Moi, j'avais soif. Mais vous avez soif, vous avez pu boire de l'eau dans les aqueducs publics. Vous avez pu boire de l'eau dans les aqueducs publics. Si vous voulez du pain, c'est ça, du pain ou qui a volé du pain puis des tomates, il y a rien de quoi manger. C'est pas la même chose si elle volé un ordinateur portable. C'est pas la même chose. Il faut discerner pour porter un jugement. Il faut avoir le discernement, la cause, qu'est-ce qu'il a fait. Y avait-tu besoin de ça? T'sais? Moi aussi, je m'excuse, je peux présenter mes excuses. Surtout des fois, je suis dans le public, je suis Asperger, j'ai l'Aspies, des fois, j'ai tendance à regarder trop longtemps les gens. Mais parce qu'il n'y a pas de médicament pour l'Asperger, il faut que je gère la gestion de mes symptômes d'Aspies. Ne pas m'approcher trop proche des gens, laisser une distance. À moins que je demande, voulez-vous un câlin? Mais s'ils disent oui, mais consentement, le consentement hygiène. C'est super important. Le partenariat public-privé. Puis tant que tu sais avoir une justice, puis juge, j'imagine, mais c'est poser des questions, puis comme moi-même, l'Asperger, il y en a qui savent pas c'est quoi, ils disent, lui, c'est des troubles mentaux. Non, c'est pas des troubles mentaux, c'est l'Asperger. Je suis obsédé par certains sujets, puis c'est possible que, même quand je fais une chose ou l'autre, c'est possible que j'ai dans mes sujets que je suis obsédé. Comme il y a de la géopolitique depuis des années chez nous dans ma grotte. Puis je fais des analyses, j'ai écrit des centaines, des milliers de documents sur des clés USB sur l'analyse en géopolitique depuis les dernières années. Des pages, des bouquets de livres, des choses sur la géopolitique, puis bien sûr des analyses profondes en géopolitique. Parce que c'est ça mes obsessions, la géopolitique, le sport, la danse et bien sûr l'entraînement physique. Et avec la géopolitique, bien sûr, c'est pas juste la géopolitique et la danse, c'est bien sûr en parallèlement aussi l'hygiène en public. C'est des obsessions en tant qu'Asperger's. Il y a bien des Aspies qui ont d'autres obsessions. Ça peut être d'autres choses. Ça peut être les arts, ça peut être la culture. Et bien sûr, je suis un philosophe rock'n'roll aussi, avec du rock'n'roll puis avec des idées de cinéma parce que je suis artiste, Aspie, athlète. Mais j'ai toujours la gratitude. Premièrement, la gratitude, j'ai payé mon loyer pour le mois de mars. Je suis ouvert pour les affaires. J'ai du café, j'ai du thé, puis bien sûr, j'ai payé ma facture d'électricité pour le mois de mars. Puis quand je vois les camions de l'Hydro-Québec avec le cul, je chante, puis je médite toujours comment que les centrales ont été bâties dans les années 50, 60, 70, 80, puis jusqu'au nouveau complexe qui a été ouvert la Romaine. Il y a tellement de choses que j'ai des questionnements, puis l'éducation à tous les jours. Dernièrement, ces dernières années, avoir survécu la COVID en 2020, en février-mars, je célèbre 4 ans de ma victoire, d'avoir survécu la COVID, c'était comme la mort, la pestilence, la maladie, c'était comme la maladie, la pestilence puis la mort, c'était comme la maladie, la pestilence puis la mort. Pour moi-même, je dis souvent, je suis mort sur l'île de Montréal durant la COVID. Je suis en train de renaître. Il n'y a rien que je veux retourner en arrière. De toute manière, je m'en souviens pas. J'ai l'amnésie, puis je m'en souviens avoir déménagé. Puis là, comme 8-9 ans, j'habitais une place où il y avait beaucoup de moisissures. Moisissures à Côte-des-Neiges, à Côte-des-Neiges, comme 7 km ici. Puis il y avait beaucoup de moisissures. C'était une plus petite place. Ici, c'est bien mieux où j'habite maintenant qu'avant. Puis bien sûr, c'est ma grotte de Dragon. Puis j'ai ma deuxième maison, la montagne. Quand je fais du rock'n'roll et de la méditation. Puis bien sûr, quand je m'entraîne le sport physique, c'est une de mes obsessions. Ayant fait mon conditionnement physique puis mon entraînement physique qui a commencé en 2017, c'est quand j'ai sorti de la dépression. Après l'événement, d'avoir traversé le Canada, ça m'a fait sortir de la dépression. J'étais en dépression puis suicidaire. Suicidaire puis en dépression. J'ai vu tellement de choses pour faire, pour vivre, pour voir, pour explorer à travers la belle province, le Québec, puis à travers le Canada jusqu'au maritime, puis au-delà. Puis, wow! Un gros pays que j'ai ici, mon pays, le Canada, le Québec, parce que fondamentalement, c'est ce que je connais. Puis c'est ma famille ici, vous êtes ma famille. Des fois, on est dysfonctionnel, mais des fois, je vous vois en train de camion, on parle, puis je vous considère mes cousines. C'est comme j'avais vu la montagne, les amis de la montagne. Ils me disent, hey, vous me faites penser à moi. Ils m'avaient dit, vous me faites penser à mon père qui a un accent gaspésien. Il m'a dit, ben ouais, je suis pas ton père, mais je suis ton cousin. C'est moi, mes cousines, mes cousins, ma famille, le Québec, les Québécois, les Québécoises, le Canada, l'Amérique du Nord. J'extends aux Américains, parce que j'étais né 2 fois dans une autre vie. Hein. Aux États-Unis, après 1776, je crois à la réincarnation. J'étais né plusieurs fois sur l'île de Montréal. Des fois, on est dysfonctionnel. Mais il faut qu'on vive en harmonie, en équilibre. Puis des fois, il faut qu'on s'excuse. Puis nos intensités, nos énergies, il faut que ça soit en balance, en harmonie avec les autres. Pour avoir l'harmonie, l'équilibre et la balance. Les partenaires public-privé. Des fois, c'est pas facile. Des fois, c'est pas facile. Notre propre nature. Puis des fois, notre propre nature, c'est pas facile. C'est pas facile. Pas facile. On a des intérêts, on a des... Là-dessus, mais il faut avoir on fait travailler pour l'harmonie et l'équilibre en Amérique du Nord, puis pour la paix mondiale aussi, mais fondamentalement, c'est l'île de Montréal que je connais, puis le Québec, le Canada, en souhaitant la paix mondiale, puis j'ai fait une analyse profonde. Maintenant, on connaît avec Vladimir Poutine, parce qu'il a été réélu. Ben, 88%, ben, je pose la question. Je pose cette question ouverte. Une question ouverte. C'est sûr que 88% ben, qui a été réélu, ben, je pose la question, est-ce que même si les élections auraient été correctes, il n'y aurait pas eu d'interférence, est-ce que Vladimir Poutine aurait été réélu à 51% ou 66 ou 70 ou 56? Est-ce que Vladimir Poutine aurait été réélu s'il aurait été bien comme il faut, pas d'interférence, pas de fraude, pas de rien de ça, si Vladimir Poutine aurait été réélu cette année, c'est possible. Je sais pas. Peut-être oui, non. Peut-être oui, non. Peut-être oui, non. Mais là, ils disent qu'il y a eu 80, proche de 88% du vote. Ben, ça, on s'en doute un peu parce que quelqu'un qui se fasse voter 88%, ben, c'est rare dans une démocratie. C'est à peu près proche de 60, des fois 60 dans une démocratie pour quelqu'un. Le président, c'est haut. Je pense que Ronald Reagan, il avait quoi, 60, 60, 60,6, 66. Ronald Reagan en 1984, 1984, que je m'en souviens qui a été vraiment élu populaire, là. Kennedy ou 1984 en Ronald Reagan, mais il faut que je vérifie mes statistiques. Mais bon, c'est un point d'ouvert, bien sûr que ça soit ouvert, puis bien sûr ouvert de discussion, puis de considération, bien sûr que ça soit un point pour avoir la considération et de faire une analyse. S'il aurait été réélu, ça aurait été un vote d'à peu près 50 et plus pour qu'il soit encore président de la Russie. Oui, peut-être non, je sais pas. Je sais pas, c'est quelque chose que je sais pas, mais je fais une analyse, puis tout ce que je sais, c'est en tant que, en analysant les discussions, puis l'analyse des nouvelles, qu'est-ce qui se passe, bien sûr, en faisant des lectures, bien sûr des journaux, puis en lisant des livres, tout ça, mais je suis pas sur le terrain, tu sais. Je suis pas sur le terrain. Je peux me prononcer d'une analyse indépendante et même neutre en géopolitique, mais profonde. Neutre, indépendante, mais quand même profonde. Profonde, indépendante, mais neutre, quand même, de point de vue, de perspective du collectif de civilisation nord-américaine, du complexe civilisationnel en Amérique du Nord. Qu'est-ce que l'Amérique du Nord, parce que en tant que philosophe, bien sûr, vous savez que je dis, puis je crois vraiment que nous autres, nord-américains, je dis souvent, mais je suis québécois-canadien ou canadien-québécois nord-américain. Je suis nord-américain, je peux être citoyen du monde de la paix mondiale, mais fondamentalement, mes théories puis mes propositions, en faisant partie de mon rêve qui se manifeste comme le rêve du dragon et de la déesse qui danse. C'est fondamentalement un appel à un partenariat public-privé. Fondamentalement, c'est ça que je fais appel en tant que philosophe, artiste et athlète pour le grand soutien de votre artiste, athlète, philosophe indépendant qui n'est pas parfait, qui est en dette de 10 000 500, mais qui a bien des bisous, des châteaux et des câlins, bien des bisous, des châteaux et des câlins, avec du rock'n'roll, ben. Et les travailleurs en agriculture, jusqu'au gratte-ciel, les travailleurs en construction du rock'n'roll, le 24/24 dans la grotte de votre dragon arc-en-ciel. Personne ne compose des poèmes comme votre dragon en arc-en-ciel. Du rock'n'roll. La rivière, ça construit des gratte-ciel. Sur la grue, ça avance. Du ciment et du béton, puis ça prend de l'amour. Parce qu'on peut pas se baser tout sur la force. On doit avoir du doux, de l'amour. On doit avoir ces choses-là dans une relation de civilisation. On est quand même individu. Puis moi-même, quand je sors dehors de ma grotte, ben, j'ai des responsabilités additionnelles. Je n'ai pas les mêmes responsabilités. J'ai d'autres obligations, responsabilités et devoirs. Quand je sors dehors, que je suis ici dans ma grotte, je n'ai pas les mêmes. Ça ne s'applique pas les mêmes. Puis ma nature, puis oui, méchant, j'en ai moi-même l'agression. J'en ai l'agression, moi-même, l'agression, j'en ai moi-même. Mais je m'entraîne, je fais l'exercice physique, je fais de la course, je fais des pompes pour la gestion, puis pour ne pas faire mal à aucune autre personne. J'ai pas besoin de voler rien, j'ai tout ce qu'il me faut j'ai du café, du thé, j'ai de la nourriture, j'ai du pain, j'ai pas de fromage, mais j'ai des nouilles, puis j'ai des pois, puis j'ai des pêches tranchées, puis j'ai des canettes, j'ai de quoi me nourrir. Mon loyer pour le mois de mars, j'ai payé mon loyer pour le mois de mars. J'ai payé ma facture d'électricité pour le mois de mars aussi. J'ai de l'électricité, j'ai une connexion Internet. J'ai payé ma moitié d'Internet aussi pour le mois de mars. Mon paiement, c'est ça, je peux faire de l'entraînement physique, puis je suis ouvert pour les affaires. J'ai pas besoin de vol. Ben, c'est ça, je suis en stress. J'ai un stress financier. Oui, je suis stressé du point de vue financièrement, mais bien d'autres là, ça, mais je suis ouvert pour les affaires. Oui, j'ai eu des emplois, mais bon, continuité, puis pas des contrats, ça a été renouvelable, puis tout ça, mais peut-être pas fait leur affaire avec l'Asperger, c'est sûr que je peux être. Ça, mais je gère, des dernières années, j'ai la gestion de mes, ma condition neurologique, c'est l'Asperger. Je sais que je suis obsédé, je ne peux pas entrer en discussion avec les gens en géopolitique qui ne sont pas intéressés par la géopolitique, ou par le sport, ou par la danse, ou par les études en civilisation. Peut-être qu'ils sont intéressés par la culture, par les arts, par la comédie. Peut-être qu'ils disent, ah oui, la comédie, j'aime ça. Fait que je vais en faire un peu de comédie. C'est ça. J'ai perdu beaucoup d'amis durant les dernières années, mais je suis content ici. Je fais des amis avec bénéfice, ça va de volonté. Prêter allégeance les gens, c'est de famille. Des fois, on est dysfonctionnel, on n'est pas parfait loin de là. Mais en ayant survécu la COVID, je vous encourage à faire l'exercice physique. L'entraînement physique, ça a été sera ma médecine et thérapie de choix. Je peux pas répéter, je répète. C'est super important, faire l'entraînement physique. Ça fait du bien pour moi-même. Puis ici, il est 1h33, je vais laisser avec une petite chanson de rock and roll pour les travailleurs publics, pour les infirmières, puis pour tous ceux qui sont dans la production alimentaire, puis pour les travailleurs en construction. Une petite chanson de votre Dragon arc-en-ciel, parce que c'est bien sûr, il y a du rock and roll 24 sur 24, 24 sur 24, 7 jours sur 7, du rock and roll philosophique un peu comique de votre Dragon arc-en-ciel. Vous êtes prêts? On ne sait pas. Ah ouais. Bienvenue dans la grotte du dragon. Dans la belle province, on fait le ton. Ça joue encore une fois. 2, 3 pas par en arrière, par en avant. On avance, on recule, les mains dans les airs, sans de misère. Le bleu ciel, ben pas qui tombe. Les anges sont en train de rire. Qu'est-ce qui fait qui nous chante? Le dragon en arc-en-ciel. Pas d'argent pour une guitare, mais ça joue bien des tambours. Pour ça fasse bien le ciel, pour ça fasse bien bordel. Et pas la Saint-Jean, il faut être patient. Et ce n'est pas la Saint-Jean, faut être patient. Ce n'est pas la Saint-Jean, faut être patient. Regardez par les infirmières, les montagnes, ça bouge. Puis chez nous, on a des cerises. Ça fait un beau sourire quand on mange les enfants mais des cerises. Et vous savez que j'aime le rouge, puis il faut que ça bouge. Faut que ça bouge en belle province, québécois puis québécoise. Des fois on est un peu dysfonctionnel. Pas besoin, je sais pas comment taper le logiciel. Appelez-moi un peu le dragon en arc-en-ciel. Je sais pas comment pour le logiciel. Mais je sais comment chanter le dragon en arc-en-ciel. Je sais pas comment taper sur le logiciel, mais je sais comment chanter le dragon en arc-en-ciel. Ah oui, coup de tonnerre, coup de foudre, ben ça danse. C'est la montagne du Mont-Royal. Pour les infirmières, les pompiers qu'on les aime, sans gêne. Pour nos travailleurs des services publics qui ramassent les poubelles, qui ramassent le compostage, puis le recyclage pour l'environnement, la mère nature, qu'à disent merci et bien bonjour. Bonjour encore un tour. Puis ça fasse plein d'amour. Les mains que ça tape. Hey, c'est comique, hein, folklorique. Mais pas besoin de l'eau bénite, juste une bière à la place. Faut que ça danse, relance pour la relance en belle province. Renaissance, le soleil, mon pape, c'est le printemps demain. Ça avance, mais il neige ce matin. Neige ce matin, les écureuils bougent sous les arbres. Ça lance la métropole. La rivière, ça l'entourne. Ben vite, ça roule. Les camionneurs dans la construction. Les infirmières des camions. Ça descend, puis ça nettoie. Ça lave, puis ça danse. Ça gêne, sans gêne. Québécois, québécoise. Comme bilingue, comme Céline, votre dragon en arc-en-ciel, vous me voyez sur la montagne. Bilingue comme Céline. Vous me voyez sur la montagne, bilingue comme Céline. Vous me voyez sur la montagne. Amour et santé, comme québécoise, love and health. North Americans United is the call, les Nord-Américains ont signé, puis workout, train, exercise, fait de l'entraînement physique, support this independent Aspie with amnesia, double A parallel to double A Aspie with amnesia, got that Asperger artist, philosopher, Rainbow Dragon, rock and roll 24/7, du dragon arc-en-ciel, du rock and roll 24 sur 24. A little bit of comedy. Oh, yeah.